Get that light out of us.
Hey, everybody. John Gums, Dakota Grappler. We're going live here Wednesday night. We took a little Christmas break. We are back into 2022 with our first great interviewee, Troy Steiner. Longtime friend. I've probably known him since I was about 8 and probably polluted his mind about at age 10, 12 in Napoleon. And then we got to be teammates after I moved to Bismarck, and always been a great wrestler, great friend. He's been an asset to North Dakota wrestling, so I'm so proud to have him on for the first time in here, Dakota Grappler. Bill, also here tonight. You know, we're braving the weather here in North Dakota. It's going to be 20 below, and everybody out there. The first thing I just want to say is, hey guys, feel free to participate in the show tonight. If you have any questions, not that I'll ask them all. You never know sometimes, especially you, Jim, when you get on, got to keep it PG. And so as it goes, guys, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk wrestling. The idea tonight, we're going to talk a lot about what Troy's doing and what he kind of plans on doing a little bit. And then we're going to go back history-wise for Troy, and we're going to then talk some Iowa, maybe Minnesota. We got a big duel coming up on Friday. Then Bill and I just kind of round up, the hour show about with talking about a little bit of North Dakota wrestling and college wrestling. So that's kind of our schedule. So first thing I want to ask Troy is, let's ask you one big question. Now, as a Division I coach, how do you prepare for recruiting when you were doing that? I know you had California kind of under your wing, but what is your first outlook when you start looking at high school wrestlers?
Well, I think first you have to recruit the area, right? And I was fortunate in California, in that Central Valley, it was very rich in the sport of wrestling, so I knew I didn't have to go too far really to put a team together, and a pretty competitive team. When you have Buchanan High and Clovis and Gilroy and Selma and, Oakdale. I mean, there are some very big programs that have done very well nationally. So I knew I didn't have to go too far, but still you want to get the right type of kid in there. And but I was very fortunate for that. So I think that's the first thing is you got to recruit the area and recruit the state. And I knew I was going to do that first. And then if we needed to, which we did, you go, cherry pick a few from other states or other connections you have around the country, and in weights that you need, so that was the big thing.
Okay. And how about now as a high school student that wants to be recruited, do you wait, or have wrestlers approached you? Have wrestlers kind of come up to you, try to get to know them? Are they people that go to your camps? Is it, what do you suggest probably some of these high school kids that are probably
obviously at the Division I level, they have to have some type of accolades, shown that they know how they've had some success, but that's not the number one thing. I mean, it's, you look a little bit at that, you're looking at the national tournaments, how they've competed, but it doesn't mean they have to win everything. It's just, if they're out there competing, they're hungry for it. They still have the drive to compete. You see a lot of kids, they've been pushed so hard at a young age. They get into the high school level and they just plateau. So you really got to watch that. And it's one thing you really want to get kids that are very hungry for to still go after it. And that's one of the biggest things you look at.
Okay.
Obviously, also then you look at the grades. You don't have to worry about that too much as a coach, but there are times where you're going to take chances on kids and give them an opportunity that maybe they wouldn't get somewhere else, because you can change the trajectory of their life too if you can get them through school, get them a degree, and help them along the way. So that's not the biggest thing you look at either, but they're all, you have bad grades, and you see a kid that not quite as hungry, you see a kid that doesn't show respect to his coaches. Each one of those is a red flag, and you get too many of those red flags, and you got to pass on them. But there are times where you're going to take a chance on a kid, and you think you can help them out and get them on the right path, and that's our job as a coach. I mean, we're not going to all have guys like, I was able to coach a guy like Donnie Pritzloff. I was able to coach, guys out in Oregon like Scott Sakaguchi and those guys that I think they'd win in a lot of places, if they're put in the right structure and put in the right environment. And but it's the kids that you can really help and mold them a little bit and really get them set down that right path. That it's our job as a coach.
Well, I like the way you mentioned the grades because that's been a huge influence on the other coaches that we've had on lately. That NDSU was actually, I think they said, number 2 last year in GPA, and so they look big time at how the students are as athletes are as students.
I look at that too, and it's important. I know to the administrations they want to have the high grade points, but there was a couple times in Fresno, and really not just Fresno, at Oregon State when I was there, at Iowa when I was there, where just getting a kid through college and getting his degree is going to help him out in his life so much. So not every kid is an A student. It doesn't mean they don't work for it. They're not pushing for good grades and high marks, but they're not given those abilities,
Right.
And so, but they have it in other ways, and so I think it's, you have to look at each student that you're recruiting and kind of look at how you can help them out, and if you can help him and if he can still be a very positive factor for your team.
Definitely. Now, when you're in the D1 programs, how many students would you look at a typical year? Now, what did you have in your room come the end?
Well, we had a cap at Fresno State when I was there. We had the first year we had a cap at 20, and then it went to 25, and then it went to 32. And that's kind of where I was capped at 32. But I was fine with that, like year one, to only have 20, because to really get to know guys and really get to know what pushes their buttons, what they need, it takes time to get to know people. And so I was okay with having 20. And then we got 5 more coming in the next year, and we got another 7 coming in. But usually you figure you probably between 7 or 8 guys you bring in. And hopefully you're graduating 7 or 8 guys every year as well.
Well, here's a big question now. How do you think it affected recruiting here with this COVID year where everybody became back eligible?
Oh, it's tough. It was a tough year. Tough for the guys that were seniors this past year, or now that are freshmen right now, because the guys weren't graduating. So if they're looking for scholarship, not maybe the amount of money wasn't necessarily there for them. But if you're a top high ranked kid, one of the top kids, that's probably not going to matter. You're going to find the money. But if you're a kid that maybe is coming on a little bit, he's showing some good signs, but you just don't have the money to put into him. Those are the ones that are probably really going to have to go in this year and prove themselves, or over the next couple of years here, to prove themselves to earn the scholarship down the road, and which isn't a bad thing either. I mean, I think you always want to, you got to earn it in this sport and in life. So nothing's going to be given to you.
So did that first year at Iowa mold you quite a bit before? Because your first year you guys redshirted, correct?
Yeah.
And it was how much molding did that do to your career?
Oh, for sure. That first year you learn so much. So much of just the discipline you have to have, the work ethic, the grind of the season. It's in high school you'll have maybe a week here, a week there where you don't have you have a pretty easy match, or you don't have to be necessarily on top of it. But in college, you got to be up for every match, especially at that level. And I think at any level, Division II, right. Division III, doesn't matter. And you have to be ready to go, because there's guys that are, you're breaking it down now from, if you look at a Division I level, how I kind of looked at it, is you're breaking it down into a number of state champions across the country every year, or maybe 150, at every weight, because some states have more than one class. Most states do. So you're looking at 150 kids that have won the state tournament at your weight. You're looking to break that down from 150 into 10 guys that win the NCAA championship, or 80 guys that make the stand.
Right.
That's you gotta, come down to a pretty small number. And how are you going to remain on top? How are you going to keep climbing to get to that top level again, like you did in high school.
Not to mention there might be three high school weight classes feeding one college weight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So
but-
I think every level you go up, there's got to be another level of dedication, of discipline, of work ethic, to have that success or have a chance to have those success. Now, nothing's guaranteed, but you're going to give yourself the best chance if you're doing the right things.
Okay.
So I would guess when you guys came out of high school, you were noted for as hard as you worked and the time that you put in, but you probably could not have had any idea what it really took when you got into the room in Iowa. That had to have been really eye-opening.
In the first couple months, you hardly scored any points unless it was against the guys that came in with you.
Right.
Yeah. And I was talking to some of the young guys here in Minnesota about it, like, it's tough, but you just got to keep fighting, because you're sitting there thinking you're getting beat up, and you're thinking, how am I ever going to get to that level? Like, how am I ever going to get to that level where I'm dominating these guys in the room and in competition? But you just got to take it day by day and really practice by practice and get as much out of it as you can every time. And pretty soon you're the guy that's scoring more. You're getting the better of people in practice. You're starting to become the dominant guy, so it's just a process. It doesn't happen quick.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to that 88, 89 first year in Iowa for you, just for a second. Was there any temptation or any chance that you were supposed to take away your red shirt? Did you have a chance at that point?
No, I don't even know if they knew I could wrestle at that level. No, I mean, I definitely needed a redshirt year. I think I definitely needed that. But that being said, I think, I think I started maybe coming around in January, February. I really started coming around and having a lot more success in the room. And by that spring, in the freestyle tournaments, I wrestled some guys that placed that year, All-Americans, and had success against them. So you start turning that corner, but those first few months before Christmas they're brutal, brutal. But you go through that, and you got to keep fighting every day. And I tell guys, like, I wanted to go in there and grab grab Penrith and grab Greg Randall and Randy Lewis and Barry Davis every day. And I remember one day Mark Johnson grabbed me and said, "I like your attitude. I appreciate that." He said, "But you have to have success." So grab one of those guys every other day, and the days in between, grab a young guy that came in at the same time as you, and have some success. And so that's kind of what I started doing. And then the days that I get beat up in practice, I'd come in that night and get 100 shots in, and just so I had success, and I felt good about it when I went to bed at night, and get up the next day and go back at it. But I always wanted to have success every day, no matter what. And just to keep feeding your confidence and keep feeding yourself, that positive attitude.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dan Gable told me you at once. I sat by him and he said that you guys it was 92, 93, or the 93 year when you guys went to NDSU and wrestled. Was that 93?
That was the start of our senior year. So that was the fall of 92.
92, okay. And that was the year that I sat by his side of him, and he said, "I've never had two guys ever work harder than you two." That's what he told me straight up. So that's a compliment from Dan Gable. But I also read it in many of his books. But one of the things that I was always impressed with was the kind of schedule you guys put yourself through. And I've talked to Terry about this a little bit. Do you remember kind of the schedule you did on a daily basis that people just couldn't hang with you after it was all said and done?
Yeah, and looking back at it now, a little crazy, right? I mean, I think but at that time, I was so focused on wanting to get to that level to be able to wrestle at the Division I level. I felt even to have success at the state level, I didn't feel like I was a shoo-in in every match. I mean, I still had to be ready to go in matches, and so I knew that I had to put the work in. And usually we'd get up in the morning and get a some type of a workout in, if it'd be a run, a drill, or a lift in the morning before school. Sometimes we'd come in at noon and get a drill in between classes. After school, we'd have practice, and maybe at night we'd go do something else. And sometimes, so looking back, we probably overtrained, but I don't think it hurt me. I mean, maybe I wasn't at my peak every time I stepped out there, but in the long run, I think it probably helped because I knew that I'd put the time in. I knew that I put the work in, and I was prepared as much or more than anyone else, Well,
I remember it back in high school. You guys ran to school in the morning, and then they'd drop off your purple pickup and and go from there, And me being a guy coming from a small town. Now I grew up in a different era. I grew up where it was tough. I always had to face older wrestlers, and having a dad as a coach, there were some expectations. So when I came to Century, I was pretty much a nobody. I stepping in that room, I had to wrestle off like everybody else as a sophomore coming to Century and beat several kids that they were expecting to be on the varsity. And the first time I came into practice, I remember the same thing. Terry came up to me and said, "Hey, if you could make it through practice today, I'll be your partner tomorrow." That's what Terry said to me. And I'm going, what? And honestly, so we had, and I'll mention some names, Willie McCollum. Willie was a hard coach, but he wasn't a technician. Same with Gabriel. You guys, by the time you guys are juniors and seniors, you guys ran a lot of the technique. They trusted you guys. And that's why as team captains, as a senior, I was very proud to be a teammate and also a senior with you. You guys basically took us under your wing and said, I would like you guys to train as hard as we want to. And you guys had 6th and 7th period off. And some days we'd come and drill before practice even started. And, just go takedowns. Trent Gillis, you.
We had a good group.
Mike Johnson, our junior year, and you just keep going on with the different guys we had in our class. But
I took many beatings from all you guys in the room. I
was always bigger than you. That's why I beat you up.
Well, still, I don't remember coming out of there every day with a smile on my face, and that everything went right. But that part of that, I knew that team helped prepare us for what we were going into down the road, at Iowa. So we were, I think, all very fortunate to have that type of a team that we had that year.
But I think what set us up, honestly, the beginning of our senior class was actually that sophomore duel against Bismarck High.
Yeah.
And if people don't know this, in 1985, 86, we had an opportunity to wrestle Bismarck High, who had the national dual streak record. And we end up stopping it that night. And one of the most exciting things is a bunch of sophomores on the team and a couple other older wrestlers, but it was kind of the start of something that we knew could be bigger. Because who's been the dominant force before us and after us? Bismarck High.
Yeah.
And we were the other school in that sense. And so, no. Just one quick question has to come across. I don't know if you get to see those on your side. But did you? I got to put Jim's question up there.
He's really helpful.
Yeah. There's Jim. Where do you guys buy your curtains and wall art? So he's just giving you a hard time, of course. Yeah.
Jim's a good friend. Good friend.
No doubt. So I've got so many questions that I want to go back to actually before this. Now, first time I remember you and your brother Terry was in the Linton tournament. Now, I've talked to him about this. Now, do you remember your driving forces, relatives and stuff that really got you going into wrestling?
Well, I think my uncle Vince and Steve are the ones that kind of got us into it the first time. And I think we were in kindergarten and they put us in a tournament at BSC or BJC at the time. And I think we hated it. We were crying the whole time. And I don't think after that, I don't think we wrestled much until it was about
Milo's club.
3rd or 4th grade when we started getting together with Monty and Milo, and then us three, it was Monty and Terry and I kind of Milo got it going, but we were kind of the three that started that out, the Mat Pack. So.
Mm-hmm. And then the thing I remember the most is I got to wrestle you in the finals of several tournaments, both you and Terry, and sometimes Linton, sometimes Center, sometimes Minot, and the thing that when I noticed that you guys turned the corner was all of a sudden when you guys wore a green uniform, when you guys were 7th graders. and you had green tights from the I want to say Horizon, but it's
from
Hughes Middle School. Yeah. And I remember the green tights that you guys were wearing, and it's kind of funny. I wish I had those pictures going back to those days.
Yeah, you know, we never had a lot of success until we got into probably junior high. We started having a little more success, but the first few years were pretty rough. You know, I think the main reason we probably stuck with it was because, for one, Milo, you know, really kept it enjoyable for everyone and tried to make it, you know, a good, fun experience for kids. Even though he pushed you and he was very disciplined with you, you had a sense of accomplishment. You had that camaraderie with the other guys in the team. And, you know, at that time, Terry and I were so shy that we didn't like being around a big team like at football or baseball, or I just didn't like that situation. I was used to being one-on-one, obviously, with Terry at home and having another guy to battle at home. But I think when we were put in the Mat Pack situation, Milo kind of got a little bit more out of you, not even on the wrestling side, just got a little more out of you, talking to you and a little bit more comfortable around other kids. And I think that's really what kept us in it. You know, it wasn't the success that we were having. I know that. You know, that once we start winning, that was all icing on the cake. It just helped, you know, keep us in it. But yeah, it was I'd say about junior high is when we started having a little success.
And then I'd like to talk about the support of your parents. I thought that was big. I thought, you know, we had great parents, and they showed us how to work hard, and your parents were number one at that.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because nowadays you see parents at all the practices. They're watching their kids at practice. I don't ever remember seeing my mom and dad at one practice. You know, and the only time was when they drove down to Iowa to, you know, drove 12 hours to see us. You know, and the practice went on. They came in and watched that, but that was about the only time, you know, that I ever saw them sit and watch a practice. You know, it was our thing. It wasn't something they were pushing us to do. And nowadays you see parents on the sideline of every practice, and if it's football or baseball or basketball or wrestling, whatever it is, parents are right there. They think they have to be there. And I was probably no different when my son first got started, but I soon realized I had to back away and just let him have his failures. That's part of it. That's part of learning and growing. And that's what makes you, you know. So obviously I was there to help, and I'm always there to help if I can, but he's got, you know, they got to go through that failure. And my daughter's the same way with basketball. I'd like to help her. I don't know anything about basketball. So all I can do is support, you know. All I can do is support. In some ways, I think it's better. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always wondered when
to play basketball.
I always wondered when that happened. That all of a sudden that all the parents are at all the practices. I kind of, I mean, it happened. I mean, my kids. It happened there too. So it was somewhere in between.
Well, it's our generation, right? It's
yeah. So it was like, yeah, maybe it was us, but but yeah, I always wondered. All of a sudden, there's parents everywhere at every practice. So
yeah, and most parents mean well. They want the best for their kids. I think you realize that this has got to be their thing, you know, and just support them. I think Donnie Pritzloff's dad one time said, you know, he said, he's on the front line. I'm like the ammo guy behind. I'm just giving him support, giving him the ammo. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing on the front line. You know, he's up there fighting. I'm just going to give him support. So that kind of was a very good way to explain it, I thought. So.
Yeah, you can't hold your hand out in the mat, your kids. So it's one thing that does make a big difference.
Yeah. You know, the only thing that my parents always said, they wanted to see hustle and effort, and you know that they wanted to see that, and then sportsmanship. You know, if we wouldn't have had that, if we would have shown or not shown those things, I think they would have probably heard my parents a lot more, or we would have heard it from our parents a lot more. You know, and we did sometimes, you know. but that was just because of that lack of work, lack of effort, and lack of sportsmanship.
Mm-hmm. So. No, I tell you what, great support. I remember when your mom cut all our hair in wrestling. Yeah. Yep.
We were the guinea pigs. We were guinea pigs.
No doubt. Lil was a great. She cut stripes in my hair and put my weight class in the back. Yeah, I think you had your weight class in yours too.
Oh yeah, and if my son would have done that, I would have been so mad at him. In fact, he did it a couple of times, and I was like so mad. And then I kept thinking back, like I had the same thing when I was young. My mom did the same thing to me when I was young.
No doubt. So. Okay, now how about I want to talk a little bit about when you wrestled internationally, and you after college, I know you had the big goal. You took third in the Olympic trials a few times. Tell us about kind of you've won the Pan Ams, you won a world medal. You had several great, I don't know, 9 or 10 times you were on the world team or,
national team.
Yeah. National team. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, I've always been so proud when I've been a fan of wrestling my whole life, and I've got somebody that I know that's wrestling in that. So I tell you.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in my life. I mean, even though I fell short, there were definitely hard times during that because you're shooting for that top spot, and I never got there. But still able to represent the U.S. in some international tours and some events, and just the places you see, the people you meet, the experiences you have, those can't be replaced. It's just you learn so much in each of those situations that very hard to replace.
Mm-hmm. Is there any time you wanted to just absorb? Did you really take it in early on, or did you realize that later?
No, I don't think I took it in much at all. And I wish, as I got older and got into coaching, you start realizing, all the experiences you had, and probably should have took it in more. But you're so focused on getting the job done or getting to the top spot.
It's that narrow focus a little bit, right?
Such a narrow focus that probably didn't enjoy it or take it in as much as I should have. And now, when I've been able to go a few times as a coach with, helping Terry with the women or even some of the men's teams, I definitely take it in more and try to get the athletes to do the same, because I think I could have took it in more and could have gained a lot more from it. I was at a camp one time a few years back in California, and it was a high school camp or youth camp, and in a beautiful setting up in the Sequoias at this, it was a campground and really beautiful Lake Hume, and we get there and they said, well, this morning the guys are going to run a 3-mile loop around this. They're going to race this 3 miles around this lake. And the guy goes, it's a beautiful run. And right away, my competitive juices kicked in. I got to win this run. And I'm even thinking to myself, I'm getting the butterflies a little bit. What is wrong? Why am I, trying to win this? It doesn't matter. Sure enough, they start us and I take off out front and I run around. I come in first in this, and it wasn't even really a race. It was just a run. And the guy comes in, as I come in, the guy goes, wasn't that a beautiful run? And I go, I don't know. I didn't enjoy one damn minute of it, and then it was later on in the camp at the end, there was a kind of a question and answer session. And one of the kids asked me, what would you change in your career if you could? And I said I would enjoy the moments more. And I talked to him about the run that morning, because it was just like the run this morning. It was a beautiful scenery, beautiful setting. And I said, I came in at the end and Jose asked me, how wasn't that beautiful? And I said, I don't know. I didn't enjoy a damn minute of it. And it was kind of how the career was in a sense. It goes by so fast. And now when you're going through it, sometimes it seems like it's not going by fast. But now as you look back, it flew by, I just wish, I would enjoy it more. And now as a coach and even as a parent to my kids, I want them to enjoy it, because it does go by so quickly. So,
are you able to, translate that to the athletes that you've been working with now? I mean, when you're able to, I mean, we can try to do that as with our kids too, but I mean,
it's hard.
You're focused on the same thing. You're focused.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see the right trees when you're running through the forest, right? I mean, it's hard to see it. It's because I think there's a very fine line between, you've got to stay focused or you're never going to be able to get where you want to go, but maybe you can go too far and it can hurt you as well. So you try to explain it to them, but just just be grateful for the opportunities you have. That's the biggest thing is, have some gratitude and be grateful for the opportunities, because not everyone gets them, and they can be taken away like that. You look at the last couple of years with COVID, opportunities have been taken away from guys like that, and we're still in it. So, and it can be taken away from an injury or whatever happens in life. So just be very grateful for the opportunities that you have, and that's what I try to talk to the athletes about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you've got the privilege to basically coach with a lot of different guys along the time. Name some of the coaches that you've really helped you along the way. We happen to get one of the coaches you've coached with in Jamestown now, but tell us some of those coaches. And I love the name, how do you call it? Basically naming people.
Yeah, so many. I mean, you look back in junior high with Wayne Gearing, and I remember Stan Holling. He wasn't even a coach, but he was a teacher that was a wrestling coach as we were coming through Hughes, and Dixon Whiteman, and then you got Willie, high school coach, and Kenny Gabriel, and my uncle Steve was their help, and Coach Welder, and then Milo was a huge influence in our life, and then and Jeff Schumacher helped us out a ton when we, probably more after high school, when we came home in the summers during college, he helped us a lot, and Scotty Nolan, so many just from the state of North Dakota and from the Bismarck area that have had so much effect on our careers. They probably don't even realize how much they helped us. We wouldn't have never got to the opportunity that we had in college without those guys. Without the foundation that they put together for us at a young age. And then you look at all the teammates you've had, and through MatPack and through Hughes Junior High and Century High School, that we had that pushed you, and that made you jump levels. So there's so many people that came into the success we had in our careers. It's hard to pinpoint it, but obviously then we get to college, and then we're around some of the big names in the sport. Coach Gable and Barry Davis and Mark Johnson, Lenny and Jim Zaleski, and Jay Robinson and Joe Wells, and just some great individuals. Some icons in the sport that I owe an awful lot to.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it.
Definitely. Can you give us one Dan Gable story? You've never, you may have not told her, or maybe have told.
There was
a good Dan Gable story.
Dan wasn't a guy to start conversation. You could sit in the sauna with him for 15 minutes and not say a word, but when he did speak, it was loud, and it meant something. And but I remember my start of my sophomore year, I placed as a freshman. I come back into this preseason. I'm ranked number 2 in the country as a sophomore, and I get beat in the inter squad by Ryan Sugai, and I had to sit and watch 5 dual meets because they were going to a dual tournament. I had to sit and watch, and I remember going into Gable's office, and he said, "Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "What do you mean, don't worry about it?" He goes, just get yourself ready for the next opportunity. You know, it's not the end of the world. You just got to get yourself ready for the next opportunity. And I knew at that point it wasn't going to be given to me. Just because I had a good year the year before, that was past. You have to consistently perform at this level, and it was a very eye-opening thing for me, which I should have already known that, and maybe I did, but it was brought to the forefront very quickly when I had to sit and watch 5 matches. And then I had an opportunity to wrestle Ryan again at the Northern Open right at Thanksgiving in Madison, and we met, and I beat him there, and then we went to a couple other open meets, and I placed higher than he did, and it kind of got my spot back. But I still knew if I wasn't performing, he was going to get an opportunity. So you always, when you have a guy like that that's breathing down your neck, you know, it tends to keep you very focused on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to say I could have got to the levels I did without him, but I don't know because he definitely kept me on my toes, and he definitely made me earn that spot and keep working to keep performing to keep the spot. So,
okay. Bill,
good.
Do you have anything right away? I got a couple more.
Oh, yeah, I could go on for hours, but we're not going to be able to do that. So, one thing I do want to bring up that Mike Kraus, Michigan State wrestler and coach, he's been in this area a bit. Northern States had been for a couple of camps, but he had a video on Facebook a while back, and he was telling a story about you guys coming into Michigan State. And did you ever see that video, or do you remember that day at all?
I saw it. I think, I don't know. I did see it, and I had a couple chuckles about it, but I remember that dual meet because I remember Gable was mad because we had to go up there because it was something that we hadn't wrestled Michigan State in a long time, and they were kind of complaining to the Big Ten Conference. So Gable agreed to go up there. So we flew up there the same day of the duel, and we went to the hotel for a little bit, and we went over to the duel, and at that time, we had a very strong team. That was my junior year,
right?
And we were very strong. I think Michigan State was down a little bit, and I think I know what happened. We were in the locker room like before the duel, and
in Michigan State's locker room, their own locker room. Yeah.
And Gable went out the coaches were out of the locker room, and guys started making bets like how long the duel was going to take, who could pin their guy closest to the center lines, and Gable walked back in, and he goes, "I don't like the attitude in here right now." And he goes, "I'll be back in 5 minutes." And when he came back, it was done, and we were, focused, ready to go. But yeah, it was definitely one of those duels where we went after the guys pretty hard because we had these side bets going on, amongst each other. So, but it was, we were just a very dominant team at that.
That was time. That was pretty tough team.
Yeah. So
that's funny. Well, it's just fun to see, that kind of, the people that were around you, around that squad, right? That team, looking at it from the outside, and how much respect you guys, had throughout the country,
Yeah. So, and had a lot of respect for one another, I think it was, you being a coach at the college level, you always think it's going to be able to find or put a team together where 10 guys are that motivated and that focused and that driven to achieve that type of success. And it's not easy to do,
right.
But those years that we were there, we had that, with Chad Zapital and the Brands brothers and Terry and I and Tom Ryan and Mark Ryland and Shelsvig and Travis Pfizer, Joel Sherrod, Ostendorf. I mean, those were guys that were very driven individuals, and they were there for one thing, and that was two things: one, to win a championship themselves, and two, to help the team, win a championship. And that was the only focus.
Yeah, how big was it for you for the team I knew that was a big factor. Think of you just your senior year. Tell us a little bit on the Lincoln McElravy, bringing them on, and you sacrificed your own weight class, so you went undefeated in your junior year.
Yeah, so this kind of started and I never really even knew it started the year prior and the summer before, because we were in camp the summer before, and we had practice at camp, and we came out of a practice, and I was walking over to the dorm and to get something to eat after practice, and there was a guy that was watching our practice. He was in a wheelchair, and I was walking out of the field house. This guy was beside me and said, how do you think the guys are going to do this year? I said, I think we're going to be okay. We lost a lot of guys. We lost 6 seniors on the squad, but we got a good core back, and we got a good group of young guys coming in here. I think we're going to be fine. He goes, we were standing at the street corner. He goes, you guys are never going to do it. And I was so mad. I wanted to push him out in front of the
kind of wheelchair.
But I remember I was so mad, that he said, he doubted that we could do it again, and that stayed in my mind. That year, my senior year, I was one of the leaders on the team, one of the captains, and we were struggling as a group, and just kind of really trying to fill the holes of the guys that left with the guys that left us with the Brands brothers, Tom Ryan, Mark Ryland, Shelsvig, Travis Pfizer, but we had some young guys coming in, but still you got to fill some big shoes and to win it again as a team. And being one of the captains on the team, I didn't want to be the one going out, not on my dime, not winning it. Mm-hmm. And we were struggling. We got beat by Nebraska in the national duels after Christmas. And that's when Coach Zaleski actually came to me and asked me about going down. And I said, and I knew, Lincoln was sitting behind me, redshirting, and actually Bill Zadok was at 34. He was a freshman at 34, but he was struggling. And they asked me about going down, and I said, I want to stay up for the All-Star meet, which is February 1st. And then that next weekend, like the 5th or 6th, we had Northwestern at home. And I said, I want to stay up for the All-Star meet on Monday, but I'll go down for Friday's match against Northwestern. And so I get back from the All-Star meet and drop down. And I went out on the mat, and I didn't feel great, but I knew it was probably first time making it down there. And I came to the edge of the mat. I come off the mat, and Gable grabbed me and said, who do you want out there? McElravy, or there was another guy, Jimmy McLaughlin. I said, if Lincoln wants to go, let him go. And once Lincoln stepped on the mat, it was done.
Right.
The decision was done. So, but what came back into that decision was a guy in a wheelchair.
But Lincoln went out and lost his first match.
Yeah, he got tech fouled by a guy from Northwestern. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But just the nerves, and the nerves that go into it, and the first time in Carver, it's a different setting. And if you're not ready for it, it doesn't matter if you're a away team or a home team. You're especially being at Iowa, there's expectations when you step on the mat. And if you don't handle those emotions, you're in trouble. They're going to get you. So.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know how you did it, because I thought you were pretty skinny at 42.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but I don't blame that on anything. It was the right decision. It obviously was the right thing for the team at the time, and I just wasn't in the right mindset in the national tournament.
You end up facing an Olympic champion.
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from, I got beat by Cole out in the semis. I'm not taking anything away from him. He came out and beat me fair and square. I was not in a good mindset. I wanted it to be over with, and instead of that should have been in a time where I should have been enjoying that tournament. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a lot of what we talked about earlier, but be grateful for the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Be grateful you're there, and have that opportunity. But that's how I was not looking at it like that at that time. For sure.
Mm-hmm. No, I've mentioned this on other shows, though, that, some athletes don't realize that, pressure is a privilege. People people crumble under it, and that pressure, you gotta take it and run with it. Those opportunities that you get, pressure kills people, and wrestling is one of those. You don't have anybody who can help you. So, yep, and you have to be grateful. I like that. There's one thing I've learned later in life a lot was, having some grace. And respecting the other people that work as hard as you. That does make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's what we all strive for, and we want to go against the toughest opponents, right? We want those battles, but sometimes when we get to them, then we get so scared that it holds us back, and that fear holds us back. Where you should be looking at that, it's just how you're looking at it. You're looking at it as a challenge, an opportunity, or a threat, and you got to keep it in the right mindset.
Right. No, I want to compliment you so much, because what's interesting is we were built kind of the same in the fact that we loved wrestling, but my plateau was always built up to be a state wrestling champion. And I never saw a vision beyond that, because that's just how the atmosphere that I grew up in. The North Dakota picture, we had a D2 school, NDSU. In my mind, D1 was so far caliber from anything that was available. It was never into that dream atmosphere that you guys had. That opened up my eyes that something could happen. You guys went D1, but I did say something. I won't even bring it out. We go off air. I'll tell you something, because I remember when you guys decided to go to Iowa, and you guys were kind of making the decision of what you guys were going to do. And I was fearful for you because of how tough Iowa was. Like, you're not just picking a school, you're going to pick the best school possible. And Dan Gable, I've always loved him my whole life. And I said, Dan Gable's going to kill these guys. Little things like that. And,
and it's funny because like when we were even being recruited, I didn't know a lot about the history of Iowa. I just never, there wasn't flow wrestling or intermat or anything else. I never followed it that close, So when we got to Iowa, like when they were even being recruited, they kept talking about the history and the program. And to me, I was like, who cares? Like, I don't care. Like, but you get down there and you soon realize what it was all about, And I remember Gable, when he was up, kept talking about the fans and the support and all this. And under my breath, I was like, yeah, I don't care. Who cares? We had big crowds at Century too, And you get down there, and one of our first big matches was Oklahoma State, 15,000 people. And I remember we were in the tunnel ready to run around the floor, and I looked back at Terry and said, I guess is what he was talking about, huh? So you soon realize how big it is. And but then you got to keep it in perspective. It's a wrestling match, and you got to focus on the job that you're looking to do out there.
Do you have one of your favorite matches ever in the home meet? Anything?
Oh, I don't know. I think one year Oklahoma State came in and they were the defending champs. We were ranked second behind them, but we knew we probably had a better team at that time. And it's expected to be a huge, big dual meet, and we blew them out like 35-2. We tied one match, and that was probably, definitely one of the highlight moments that I had in Carver for sure. But every match in there was big. Every time I put on that uniform was big. It didn't matter who I wrestled. It was a big moment for me, and grateful for the opportunity for
sure. The question that came to my mind when you were talking is, so when you guys obviously made a decision you were going to Iowa, but at what point in life did you guys have this thought that you are going? I mean, the Division I program was where you were going to end up.
I don't know if I ever knew that up to my senior year, if I knew I was going to end up there. But I think probably early in our high school year, 9th, 10th grade, I think, we went to Jay Robinson's camp in one summer, and that really opened my eyes a little bit to, just some of the counselors you were around and clinicians and something that I wanted to do. We went to a camp at Iowa one year as well, and just started realizing that's where I wanted to, really put a strong focus on, and what I wanted to go after. So.
Okay. Well, awesome. Now, Bill, I know we've been 50 minutes here. Let's get sidetracked. You can conclude on this. I just want to mention a few things. We got through the Rumble the Red tournament in Class A. We got through the Linton tournament over Christmas. We haven't got to talk about too much. Big time. New Salem's been looking good in Class B, and Bismarck High in Class A. Any major comments you want about high school before we talk a little bit of college?
No, actually, I do have a question. It's going to go back to Troy again.
Okay,
so
sure, that's fine.
It's Rotary Week too, right? You got any big Rotary memories?
Yeah. I love that tournament. I took my last high school loss there to Tim Trimble from South Dakota, Rapid City Central. Beat me my sophomore year there, but then I think my junior and senior, I had John Buxton from Spearfish, which was a tight match every time I wrestled him. So I loved that tournament and had some of my better high school matches in that tournament as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I've always loved that tournament too, and it's that week, so
yeah,
fun to see what happens there. So,
okay.
Besides that, the Rumbles always was a great tournament. We once again found out that there's a lot of good wrestlers in the area that come to that tournament. We had some good results from some North Dakota kids, but it's just such a great tournament. So
yeah,
it's a lot of these kids obviously are going from the back-to-back Rumble to the Rotary, and both are equally as difficult. I remember a few years ago, like when my kid was wrestling, you'd go to we had guys that would go to the Rumble. Well, we had a local Carrington kid that won the Rumble and I think took maybe third or fourth at the Rotary. It's and Billy was I don't know, sixth at the Rumble and won the Rotary. So it's funny how it works, but they're both great tournaments. And so This weekend you got Central Cass, kind of the big Class B tournament, but we'll have some Class B teams at the Rotary also. So
and Hettinger has a big tournament this weekend.
First tournament this weekend too. Yeah. So it'll be a good week of high school wrestling. So
it's nice to see some of these. You mentioned Hettinger and some of these kids from North Dakota that are out there now competing in the college level, at the Division I level, where I follow pretty close. Franek is doing a great job. Berwick is doing a good job at Wisconsin. It's neat to see these guys competing and doing well.
No, Bill and I spent some time watching Scuffle this weekend. So I saw something, Bill, that I was going to text you on. I don't know if you watched. Was it Pearson from NDSU? But he had a half cradle on a kid. And this is like in the quarters. So he's halving a kid, and then he cradles him with a half on. And I'm going, Bill, this is like a Class B move. I was gonna say, Jim, do you teach this kid? I was gonna get on to Jim too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was impressed. Franek looked really good this weekend.
Looked really good. Yeah.
Very
solid.
I thought Metz looked fine, except his semifinal match, which got kind of taken to him.
Well, but that guy pinned everybody but Metz. So he's really, really good. Troy good. Probably had some knowledge, and I think that was not someone I didn't know. So very good. Obviously, outstanding wrestler of the tournament, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know he's done well, and he had a big summer too. He was on the junior world team or U23 team. I can't remember which one, but
freestyle.
Yeah. Did very well.
On Flow, they knew nothing about Metz, though. Somebody actually made a comment. Did you realize that he was the representative in the Greco?
Yeah, he was U23 team also. But yeah. So it was it was a good tournament. Scuffle's always great. There was, we didn't have not everybody had full lineups, but I think that's something to be.
I thought
Missouri kind of where we're at these days.
Yeah, Missouri looked good. SDSU had a couple guys that looked pretty good too. They had a champion, and so it's
going to be an interesting as we go in here to the dual meet season right now, and then head into conference and national. It's going to be some interesting team races.
Well, how close you paying attention to everything in the Big Ten? Because that is crazy. Everything.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle. Every weekend, you don't have a easy match. Going through this thing, and you got to be kind of laser focused as you go through it here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, even we're going back to the scuffle, but Big Ten, Maryland has a champ, right? So we're seeing a little bit of a surgence there. So that's good. Obviously the big first weekend. We get Minnesota going to Carver to wrestle the Hawkeyes.
Let's talk about a little bit of that matchup. Now, with Iowa not having, Spencer Lee, that opens a spot, but is it Drake? What's his name? Is he going to be
Ayala? Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, it does not. I don't. Who knows? We won't know until it could be a game time decision, But from what I'm hearing, and maybe Troy's got more knowledge on that too. But it doesn't sound to me like they're going to pull his red shirt this week. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't have any intel, but it doesn't. I don't know if they will yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do down the road.
Would they go with the Yarbera or something like that?
Yeah.
He's
Jesse
been
Ybarra
before, and they may pull him. Not sure what they'll do, but yeah, there's some good matchups though.
Because
McKee's wrestling very well right now, and 33. You have DeSanto and probably Gliva for Minnesota.
I would think Gliva, yeah. And DeSanto obviously is tough. He's got huge motor, and he's going to keep coming. But there's going to be some great, some good matches. There'll be a good match probably at 41.
Well, Ironman.
And Ironman's been
who would he face? Would he pick Berglund or
Berglund? Yeah,
Berglund. Yep.
Yeah,
and then
49 is kind of that's a key match, I think, with Blockus and Marin. I think that's a big match there.
Jimmy coming up.
Yeah.
And then
very high percentage.
57 was he got
Caleb Young and
Caleb Young. They've wrestled a few times. It's always been a pretty tight match, close match.
Young Lee match.
Yeah, Brayton Lee. And I think Brayton Lee's looked really, really good at 57. I'm kind of a big Brayton Lee fan, and Young has not been, he's not necessarily been the Young of past. I don't know if he's, at some point you think he's probably going to make a jump, but there'll be a lot of 60, 65.
Yeah, 65, Iowa's huge advantage there. Because I'm not sure who they're going to pull out. Minnesota, I think they had all freshmen, if I remember right.
No, they have Carlson and Sparks.
Right, and Sparks only wrestled one match at the scuffle and injury defaulted out, which he's been wearing that huge knee brace all year. But and Carlson is just tough. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to. You don't see get blown out a lot, right? I mean, because he's
wrestled some good matches. He wrestled that Patrick Kennedy pretty well at the UNI Open. And,
he didn't give up a major to Keegan O'Toole at the scuffle. So
they probably got some decisions to make there at 65. Who's going to go there? And, 74.
Kimmerer.
I don't think you're going to see
Kimmerer. They're going to go.
You're not going to go. So Nelson
and Brandt,
Nelson, he's out. No,
he might be hurt. But I think they pulled
Swafford's red shirt.
Swafford, and then Minnesota's got O'Reilly. He's been wrestling pretty well.
Yeah, he looks really good. Yeah,
I forgot about him. That Bailey O'Reilly.
Yeah. He's been wrestling well.
He had a good scuffle. So, 84. You have
a couple guys for Iowa and then a couple guys from Minnesota that they've had in there.
Could be a toss-up who they'd pull out there. Yep.
Yeah. And 97, I'm interested in that Michael Foy's son.
Right. Is his name Mikhail, or is that what is
his first name? I don't remember. But he's been wrestling. He had a nice win early on in the season with Tanner Sloan from South
Correct.
State.
Yep.
And then heavyweight will be you got Olympic
champion and
against the U23
U23 champion. Yeah. That's good. So
Yeah,
I think it'll be a good duel. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Who did Cassiope lose to this year?
Well, he got pinned by the Princeton guy.
I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he hasn't wrestled Gable yet, so that's a different cat there.
Yeah.
So no, it'll actually. And one thing that's interesting is in the past, obviously Gable's always handled them fairly well, but in the past, Cassiope's actually been bigger than Gable. And I don't think that'll be, I mean, poundage wise, I think Gable's probably bigger now, and
he's
faster. And he'd be scary. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Be good.
Yeah.
I think
good way to start the Big Ten season. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
There'll be some big Sundays because there's a ton of Sunday matches coming, and I look forward to it. I looked about 2 weeks ago at the Big Ten schedule again to I got to put a little calendar by my TV for the ones to make sure I DVR them and get it. Sometimes I won't get it.
Yeah.
No. So if you are now, I know that Fresno State is out of the picture because they don't have a wrestling program. Now let's talk just a little bit more about that. When can you give some of your services to college wrestling again? Are you going to start in the next year?
I can be back in coaching, when something opens up or, when I find a position that's good for me and my family, I'm just kind of trying to just take some time and just really figure out which direction I want to go here, and obviously I still want to be involved in the sport and coaching. Just trying to figure that out a little bit, but I want to give it some time. It was hard. The last year and a half was pretty tough out there. It was a great situation when I went there 5 years ago. I wouldn't change the experience that I had there. Met some great people. Had great support. Right away anyway, for sure. But I was. Just a tough thing how it all ended, And
can you see that, Troy?
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, Janet doesn't live in Watford.
But it was good, and I learned a lot from the experience, and I just want to be involved in the sport. There's no doubt about that, and we'll see where it takes me here moving forward. But
you'll be involved again somewhere big.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to it. Yeah. But no, I tell you what, I've got so much, so many questions inside my head. It's almost jumbled up a little bit, but we've been an hour for you, and I would love to go through my rapid fire questions with you.
Okay.
And so we've done this for fun. And a lot of this are just quick answers and see how it goes here. So you'll see them across the bottom of the screen, and I'll read them to you too, but not a problem. So the first question, what is it like to be coached by you if asked by one of your wrestlers?
Well, hopefully enjoyable, but demanding as well.
Okay.
I don't like either one of them, actually.
Yeah, Gatorade or Powerade.
You're going to say water.
Are you a water guy?
Water. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Popsicles or dilly bars? Dilly bars. What color?
Butterscotch.
Butterscotch.
Oh, yes. I like butterscotch.
There we go. I tell you what, you put the butterscotch in our freezer, they're going to last a little longer than the other ones. But okay. Give 3 characteristics that all wrestlers should have.
Well, I think I
need them.
Toughness, resiliency and discipline.
Okay. Mama's boy or rebel?
Well, I don't know. Mama's boy, she was pretty tough on us. So I gotta say Mama's boy, or I might be in trouble.
Yeah, a Mama's rebel. Yeah, there we go. Okay, fast paced or consistently slow?
I'm right in the middle, I think. Right in the middle there.
Physical or mental athlete?
Well, I think it's both. both. I think you have to have. I wouldn't say I was physical from a standpoint of stronger than everyone, but I had some finesse and was able to had a big tank on me. So, but then I like to think you got to have that mental side of it as well.
I think it's huge for wrestling to be a mental athlete. Definitely. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Christmas.
Right.
And this one doesn't fit for you so much, but I usually say Dan Gable and Cale Sanderson.
Yeah, that's an easy one for me.
Yep.
Which Gable?
Yep. Favorite number?
1. I don't know.
For taking first place?
Yeah, what else is there?
Other wrestlers, just because of a takedown, say 2. Then the other one. Best wrestler you ever wrestled?
Boy, I don't know. There's been a lot of them.
Or name a couple. Name one from high school, and then one from or a couple from college, and then international.
Well, I'd say high school was probably a guy like Buxton from Spearfish. Was always a tough competitor for me, and college there was a lot of them as well. I'd have to say Colot was one that gave me some trouble my senior year for sure, but there was a lot of them, and no match was easy.
How tough was Randy Lewis? Because he watched.
Well, I don't even know how there could be any other answer. He came right on and told us all the stories.
Yeah.
Well, I do. Randy probably won't agree with me, but I still say that I own the Dakota title. We always have that little thing with.
No, he does not agree.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
That's pretty good. Okay. Any habit you learned in wrestling that you still do today?
Yeah. I think that just your daily habits, your workout routine and all that. It's hard to get away from that. Once you've had that, it definitely starts my day with a morning workout for sure.
I still step on the scale every day, and I drink water like I'm thirsty, and I shouldn't be. Yeah. Okay. Swamp People, Survivor, or The Voice?
I don't watch any of them.
Would you fit in any of them? Probably Survivor.
Yeah, Survivor. That'd be kind of fun to try, I guess.
Cat, bird, or dog?
Dog. Yeah.
I would put horse on there. You'd probably.
Yeah, horse.
Would you ever think of having horses again?
I'd love to. I would love to for sure.
Okay.
It's funny. I ran into Mike Seeger.
Okay.
And he lives very close to me, and he's got a huge horse barn. His daughter and his wife are big into horses, and so I told him I'm gonna have to come out and ride sometime. That's
pretty awesome. I remember you guys. It's interesting because where you used to live is now in town. in Bismarck, it's part of the city now, and you guys used to be way out of town. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
At Northside. So let me see if there's any major comments coming through here. No, I appreciate everything. See what Jim has to say. That again, Troy's one of the best human beings I've ever met, and Jon and Bill, rock stars. This has been a great interview. Thanks, fellas. Well, I appreciate it, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, I've always want Jim on here, but I think he'd rather just be in the background and just make sly comments.
Yeah, Jim is. I met Jim when I was in college, and got to know him, and when I was early on in college, and has been a great friend ever since, and a guy that I'd call, at times when I in my coaching career, just for advice and see how he would handle things, and he's remained a great friend ever since. So.
Awesome. Bill, any last questions? We've ran our time.
No, I don't. I'd keep rambling on. So I'm just really, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad Troy was able to come on and
yeah, I'm excited to maybe get back.
We'll do it again.
I want to get back to some events back there in North Dakota to watch, since I'm closer than I've ever been in the last 20 years. So.
Well, I should be able, if you come down to the state wrestling club, I probably can get you down on the floor.
Yeah.
Stuff that's, 18th, 19th of February. Bill got to do the Class B last year, do some of the announcing. I thought that was pretty good. When I listened back, Bill's a pro. He did good. Bill and I did.
I never heard it, so I'm
you
going to go with what. No, I have to go with what you tell me.
Okay, well, you did awesome. And then then we did the women's nationals in Jamestown together, Bill and I, and that turned out real good. So
that was fun.
Bill and I say we got faces for radio.
Yep. Keep the camera right on the mat. We're good then.
Yep. We're pretty good at that. But no, I just want to thank you again. Anytime, just having you on brings back so many memories. I do appreciate it, Troy. You've had a great career, and I expect a lot more good things out of you in the future.
All right. Well, if I can anything to help you guys or the state of North Dakota, I'd love to help out. So.
Okay. One more real quick shout out. I appreciate Janet Fish, 50 years ago, Watford City had their first state champions. That's pretty cool. See Janet a lot. She's at the state wrestling tournament when she can. I know she has kids yet in athletics, so it's hard for her to get there. But her dad, Frank, had him on one of the best interviews I've had. I coaches
too. It was awesome. So.
Yeah. And plan on getting Dale Beckman on in near future. Plan on getting more people, so guys stay close. We'll hopefully have Dan Gable on in the near future. And guess what? Come back anytime you need anything Dakota Grappler wise. Just hop online. I can't do it all. I teach, but I want to promote the sport of wrestling, so I tell everybody get out there and promote the sport. Definitely.
All right.
Guys, have a great night. You bet. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yep.